world. So I'd like to welcome Christian Richter. Christian, please do join us. Christian Richter is the Senior Vice President of Customer Success at LeanIX, an enterprise architecture tool provider. Prior to LeanIX, Christian worked 7 years for Deutsche Telekom and led digital transformation initiatives to improve customer experience in an omni-channel world. Now, Christian is a passionate tennis player and runner. He's a father of 2 kids, aged 7 and 5, and he has had a great career in this field. And he's going to share his expertise with us today through his presentation. And Christian, thank you so much for being with us. It's a real pleasure to have you. Very much looking forward to your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Jose, for the presentation, for the introduction, and I'm really happy to speak to you today. So let me share my presentation. And yeah, as Jose said, so I've spent 4 years now with LeanIX. I've worked very intensely from that perspective with enterprise architects around the world, and spent 7 years with Deutsche Telekom, where I was involved in a lot of architecture related discussions and obviously projects. So happy to share some of the experience that I gained over the past decade in enterprise architecture. So today I'd like to talk about, obviously as it's the topic of the conference, about enterprise architects. And I truly believe that these enterprise architects are the champions of continuous transformation. And I'd like to do one thing. I'd like to dive into M&A projects, because looking back now at the last 4 years, it has shown over and over again that M&A projects are a crucial point in the development of companies, in generating growth for companies. And I believe crucial projects where enterprise architects can demonstrate a true value for the whole organization. So let me start with one thing, and that obviously goes back to my experience in corporate IT. So first of all, I truly believe that there is something fundamentally wrong with the understanding that projects are the exception and change is the exception in today's companies. So as most of you might probably know, it's long decision cycles until you get approval and budgets for a project. You need to go into business cases. You work out very detailed plans. You try to execute according to them, and throughout the whole process, once the project plan is set up, you try to minimize variance in that process. And there is a belief that there is a back to normal, back to as it was before, back to a stable state after a project. So you have an as is, you believe you do a project, and then there is a back to normal, and you try to guess as good as possible what does that new normal then look like. And I believe this model doesn't work anymore in the world that we are in. I believe it counts much more to learn fast and to continuously adopt and transform, to develop fast hypotheses, to reduce uncertainty, because I mean, who would have guessed 1.5 years ago the situation that we are in now, and act upon opportunities. So see the opportunities that you see along the way. And I also believe there is not this one digital transformation. There are a lot of transformations going on that need to be considered and that have dependencies. And to lay out some examples here, so cloud migration, so moving from your own data center centric world to the hyperscalers, that's a clear path of transformation. Large ERP system rollouts, so going from one country to the next country, or from one domain in your company to the next domain, or whole changes in the operating model. These are all transformations. And the trigger that I would like to get in deeper today, that's around mergers, acquisitions, carve-outs. We see them happening across industries and across countries, obviously. So mergers, acquisitions are very like a dominant trigger here. And I also believe there's not this target picture. With all the dependencies that we see, there is no target architecture that you can aim for. Now I'd say when I talk to our architects, I believe the architects are the salespersons of the corporate IT. They sell options, so they and I believe when you look a bit at the past, so it went a lot from coming up with nice posters that people painted on their walls and or put on their walls, and which were very complex. And I believe this the role of the architect changes to somebody who sells option and who enables continuous transformation. So who detects dependencies, who acts on like new data. So you can't change the whole picture on the left side when you get a new input, because that will happen every day. You just need to adapt your model in a continuous way and see the dependencies that are coming along the way. So as I said, there are a lot of triggers happening. And another one more that I did not mention before is when you break down your monoliths into microservices. So this is another part of IT-centric transformation that is happening. And I said there is not this one digital transformation. So in a survey by Deloitte, it was figured out that 23% of the companies have undergone more than 10 transformations over the past 10 years. So that means one transformation a year. And this shows how the whole IT and the whole business model is in flux and is in movement. And at this point, needs architects who are able to understand and to architect in this continuously transforming model. So Jose, you mentioned the conference next week, so around RPA. I believe looking at it from a technology side, that's one of the triggers. So when we look at our customer base, we see typically that they run around 500 processes, have around 1,000 applications in their portfolio, and have more than 2,500 technologies deployed, from like hardware to software that they are in use. And you will find that across all kinds of capability, this changes with the business adopting SaaS, with robotic process automation being applied to the processes, with IoT, with cloud, with microservices. So with tomorrow, I even believe that's a today for the digital companies, where you in growing environments, you're having up to 5,000 processes. You have 10,000 apps or services that are running, and that are running critical processes. So they are really you really need to understand what they are doing and what are the underlying technologies. And I believe this being able to do like this full view from a technology perspective up to a business or process perspective, this is where the world needs more architects to allow for the transformation that is happening here. So why am I so passionate about architecture? Obviously, as I said in the beginning, I'm working for LeanIX, and we are a software as a service company for enterprise architecture and cloud governance. We exist since about 9 years now, have globally 380 customers in more than 50 countries. We only end of last year, we had our 300th employee joining LeanIX. We are headquartered here in Germany, in Bonn, with our US office in Boston. We recently opened an office in Hyderabad in India, and also we have smaller offices in Munich and Utrecht in Netherlands. From the analyst view, we are a strong performer according to Forrester, a challenger according to Gartner's Magic Quadrant. And I believe what confirms us in our approach that we truly believe that enterprise architecture is a discipline for everyone in the business. So we focus on high usability, have a net promoter score of more than 60, and have grown significantly over the last years. Last but not least to mention here, we are funded by Insight Partners and by Goldman Sachs. So we believe this world of enterprise architecture and cloud governance can and needs to grow together in the next years, and this is a transformation of that disciplines that we want to shape. So enterprise architecture, as you're probably all aware, is not bound to a certain industry. So with all our customers, we are in all major industries, and we have customers in all major industries and geographies, from companies like Bosch, so large companies, 450,000 employees, down to tech companies who are using our product to control, manage their fast-growing IT environments. As I said, the enterprise architecture world and the cloud-native world are two disciplines, I believe, that are in some way merging. So we see that the corporate IT, that's obviously the focus of how we see enterprise architects adding value to companies, whereas the product IT with own development and engineering teams, this is where we support with our cloud native suite. And to bring it down to use cases. So this is on the enterprise architecture side. That's application portfolio management, rationalizing applications. It's technology risk management. So to manage the legacy technologies and moving that to or migrating that to newer technologies. And last but not least, on that side, the business transformation management. That means planning ahead and executing on the continuous transformation. On the cloud native side, just to mention that briefly, it's important to also keep inventory and track on the business-led SaaS applications that are used in the company, on cloud intelligence. So that means enabling the visibility on what's deployed with the hyperscalers, as well as all the microservices that that product IT is developing. So who owns them? What libraries, dependencies are used in those microservices? So diving deeper on the EA side here, because obviously this is the theme of the event and also the topic of the presentation. What we see companies doing here is drive transformation in a collaborative approach. So in the example of Bosch, where more than 3,000 people contribute to the enterprise architecture inventory in LeanIX. DSV, I will come to that later, who manage their merger in a unified capability model. Union Investment, a German financial institution, applying the time method. And then 3 transformation examples. One from National Bank of Canada, capability-based planning, implementing the scaled agile framework, which we did with Migros, and enabling a large-scale ERP transformation in the complex IT landscape for DHL. So these are like typical use cases and customer examples that we see arising here. To help to understand that a bit deeper, I'm a huge fan of the IT for IT framework, and Rob Akashok has come up with a nice view on the tool landscape in that, and I think that's important to understand where do certain players in that IT for IT stack find their place, and like on the overall phases like strategy portfolio, I believe this is where an architecture tool plays a very important role. Whereas then from requirements to deploy, you will find tools like a Jira from Atlassian or the CI/CD tools like GitLab or Jenkins here. Then on the request to fulfill, obviously service, or you're getting into request management, then into detect to correct service management tools, where again the cloud or the assets deployed to the cloud, we see ourselves in that space of like discovering those assets and connecting this information to the EA world, but also then to the IT governance and risk management world. And obviously, in supporting capabilities, it's crucial in this IT for IT stack to have like Teams tools like Teams or Slack for IT financial management, Apptio also, and intelligence and reporting, the BI tools as they are. So this is where I truly believe it's a nice view to understand what platforms, what tools you use in this IT for IT stack. So coming to the M&A world, so mergers and acquisitions. When you look at the numbers, how they've evolved, 2020 was definitely a special year and led to a decline in M&A deals and deal volume around the world. Still, when looking into the new forecasts for 2021, M&A deals are believed to get back to the levels of the 2018s and 19s. So it's a super relevant trigger and in journeys of companies. And what's been very interesting when you compare the situation from 6 years ago to 1 or 2 years ago, you would see that there is an increasing number of scope deals happening. So it's not all about efficiencies and economies of scale anymore, but it's really to add capabilities for companies. And this counts even more in deals in the technology industry. So where 82% in 2019 of the deals have been scope deals to add capabilities. And I believe this is where architects can and need to play a crucial role, as we'll see in the next slides. So in our base, I mean, we have 380 customers, and I believe we constantly discussing the M&A case with like at least 10 of our customers in parallel. Because for some, and I will come to some points of a study that we did, are like continuously acquiring. For some, it's happening like once a year or once every 2 or 3 years. And some examples I've like pointed out here. So in the pharma industry, the AbbVie Allergan deal not too long ago, and a project that we've done about a year ago was the carve out between Otis and UTC, where within a 6-week time frame, Otis needed to understand all the dependencies that they had still from UTC and which projects needed to be set up at this point of time to allow this carve out to happen. But for those who followed the press around M&As in the last weeks have certainly heard about the Salesforce Slack deal. And also, although it's more on the German side, but I still believe has a meaning for the whole IT world, the deal between SAP and Signavio. So adding more business process intelligence capabilities to the stack of SAP. Clearly, two scope deals here, where we see a strong a significance of like adding capabilities here. So one story that was presented last year at one of our events from our customer Atlassian is really shows how M&A deals are happening at scale, and by scale I mean in if it needs to happen in a very frequent way. So what Atlassian laid out as a challenge is to realize the IT value of any acquisition within a 90-day time frame. So when they acquire a company, they give themselves 90 days to like do the full project from the day zero till the end. So what they did from an like enterprise architecture team perspective is to do a stock take of the applications and the business capabilities, to identify for each application if to retire or retain it, to prioritize and execute the rationalization approach, and to agree and align with the partners in the IT landscape. Obviously, there are like vendors involved and contracts involved and so on. So the learnings that they shared in their presentations was to really align with all partners, so be it the acquired company, the vendors, and yeah, at a very early point. And talking about early, it's crucial not only to like jump into the process when the PMI, so post-merger integration, starts, but really as early as possible. Also, as Atlassian is doing very frequently these acquisitions, each acquisition is different and needs to be treated in a different way. Can depend on the size of the company, the stage and maturity of the company, and like especially when a large company buys a smaller company, you cannot expect that you have a 10 people enterprise architecture team on the other side who can like contribute all the information that you wish within a week or so. And that leads me to the point which they shared, that it's okay so to sometimes not reach the 100% quality, but rather prioritize. So the important yeah, the important applications, the important capabilities, and to focus on those ones. So for those who are interested, I can strongly recommend to like watch the 15 minutes, the full story, where Atlassian shares, or Phil Ziegler from Atlassian shares their approach and their like a segmentation of the applications into retain and retire, and how they went through the whole process in managing that with LeanIX. So another example I chose because it's like on the other side of the spectrum. One of our customers, ZF, who's one of the largest automotive suppliers in Germany. There, the A team was involved in an like post-merger integration after the 8 months after the project was already running. So it's what I said just said is like it's important to get early on into the process. Obviously, when the train is already running since 8 months, as an architect, you're quite late. But still, this really accelerated. It wasn't accelerated in involvement, but it really led to significant and important business outcomes for the company, because what the ZF as a company went through like a target architecture plan for 2025, and so made sure that all the platform technology decisions that were taken as part of the merger were now in line with the ZF target architecture. And in that process of retaining and retiring, that's where the A team then moderated and came up with structures. And it's as simple as you don't have the same naming or for the same thing on both sides. So to getting these this harmonization into the game, that's really a value add that the team brought for the whole project. And I mean, as you're probably aware, for those who've been involved in M&A projects, there are a lot of work streams, and when you have one single source of truth that you can rely on when it comes to the future of the IT landscape, it's good to have that as a cross to see cross work stream dependencies there. And one interesting thing here, the M&A team, so which was the staff from the strategy team, really started working with Linux, and to like give some more detail, that was the first time that the A tool made it to the boardroom of the organization, because this is what was used to really show the impact of the M&A or of the merger that was happening, and to also lay out the plan how the new entity should be integrated. Being a value contributor here, the A team really came to a new role and position in the whole company. So it was a success story, and has led to the A team being involved in a lot of other initiatives now early on. And this really makes what was seen as a sustainable impact for the company. So as I mentioned before, we've in December, January surveyed our customers on mergers and acquisitions and carve-outs, and you see that in 74% of our customer base, either mergers or acquisitions happened in the last 12 months. So it's happening over and over again, some more frequent than others, some with a different focus, so some more on economies of scale, some more on extending the scope or gaining new capabilities. And when you see how involved these the enterprise architects were in the M&A deals and projects, you see that 80% of the EAs were involved, and so that means 7% were involved quite heavily. When you look at the stages that where EAs could be involved, so 7% were involved in 4 to 5 of those stages, and 1/3 was involved only in one step. And when you look at the where enterprise architects are involved, I think it comes very natural that the post-merger integration, so once the deal is signed and then doing the IT integration, that's the major part. But also helping in due diligences is a major contribution, as well as executing the carve-outs as I described it in in the Otis example, who carved out of UTC. So EAs are not too much involved when it comes to identifying candidates, and I also believe that that's okay. But as soon as the due diligence starts, we've seen customers who have already prepared the templates that they in the due diligence phase sent over to get an idea of what platforms are used, what applications, and so on. So the key blockers that we've received during that M&A study are basically threefold. So first of all, it's a lack of visibility. So it's when starting the PMI, there are no insights into capabilities, sometimes even no understanding of capabilities, systems, technologies of the combined entity. So this is something that you want to solve as soon as possible. And also seeing the dependencies is crucial to get an idea on the feasibility or effort of the integration or separation of systems. So highly integrated environments, it's very hard to take something out of the middle and rationalize it, or if you are if you're in the carve-out scenario to simply carve out one application which has a lot of dependencies in the overall landscape. One point that came up very often is the lack of strategic direction. So this is where EAs commented a lot that as early as possible, it needs to be clear what the strategy moving forward with the integration is. So is it a best of both worlds? So for each capability or for each platform, you look which is fitting better, or is it a winner takes it all? So one company clearly giving the direction on what should be applied, and there could also be clear preferences for platforms, for hosting, for certain capabilities, which need to be taken into consideration, which is a very important guidance. So, and having that really fosters a decentral decision taking that you want to increase the speed in such processes. There are so many decisions that need to be taken, and the more decentral, the better. Also, a blocker can be change management when it's not done in the right way. So you want to keep the highly talented people from the new joining organization, and you want to give them perspective in the future organization. The knowledge that these experts have on how things are working together, how they are dependent, this is important knowledge for the EA to make good architecture decisions. Because if you don't know it, it takes long to do the bottom up information gathering there. What you also want to make sure is the people who join, that they find something that's where they can fast ramp up and see what's there. How can they already contribute the knowledge that they have? So these are all motivational factors that need to be taken into consideration when doing the M&A projects here. So last point from the study here. So the major use cases or involvement of the enterprise architects in such IT work streams is the most obvious one is IT landscape transparency. So see what's there. Rationalization is the second most important. So once you know what you have, then obviously you don't want to keep the full 100%, but want to rationalize from an IT perspective and reduce complexity. Next thing I think that's also clear is getting involved in the target landscape to then develop application roadmaps, business capability maps as a relevant artifact. And I think the next presentation will also shed some more light on business capabilities. And when it comes to scenarios, that's still something that's not happening that often. Sometimes the time is not there to come up with 3-4 different scenarios that you can do. So to share our best practice here that we've seen across our several customers. So it's 4 steps. The first one, to develop a joint capability map. The second one, create full transparency of the application landscape. The third one, a way forward for each application. And the fourth one, to develop a roadmap and track the implementation. This is where we believe EAs can and need value. So the starting point is definitely the business capability map. So, and I can only recommend, if you don't have one, start with the best practice one. This is one that I can strongly recommend, and develop the joint business capability here. Structure them, that you say what's important, what's not so important, so that you can derive your application sourcing strategy from it. So where do you want to allow SaaS applications, where do you allow for custom applications, and so on. And then map it to the corporate goals that you have. So and objectives. That makes the translation towards business much easier if you're saying, hey, we take the objectives, we break it down, we relate these, and then we can still say what's now very important. So what's just a support capability, or what's really something that's innovation and advantage for us. As a second step, get the 360-degree view on your applications. So collect feedback from the stakeholders. There are a lot of people who have the relevant knowledge, like about the costs, about the function of the technical fit, and see also what the dependencies from the applications are, especially when you later on eliminate. You want to see what's the effort, what's the feasibility around that, and that you know only when you see those dependencies. The third one is the way forward for each application. So we usually recommend to use Gartner's time model here. So to see based on the strategy, it can be quite easy to just take everything from company A or company B, or if it's like best of both worlds, then it's a more like diligent discussion. And then once you've done that, define what's a successor, and what set the life cycle. Say we want to phase it out until the end of the year. We set up the project and do it. So this is where the elimination starts, and really putting in like a stop sign to the applications that you want to get rid of. Communicate that in a proper way, and set up the projects. Make sure that the projects remain on like in time, so that you can really like leverage the material benefits that arise from it. And it's continuous transformation, as I said. So be prepared to adapt where necessary. So, and what this usually ends in is like such a burn down. So where you see over time how your number of applications will decrease over time, and see that you can stick to that plan. So to come closer to the end here, I briefly said planning scenarios. That's still on like the outlook for me. I've seen it applying. Said that some customers applied it. So to really say, hey, we're looking at 2 or 3 different scenarios on how we want to integrate. So this is definitely where I see EAs adding additional value here. And then detecting where, based on these scenarios, where do we have dependencies? So if I go for scenario A or B, what other implications does it have on phase-ins or phase-out? And obviously the possibility to jump into the future and say, hey, what does it look like from like in 2023 if we take that? And what's the delta between now and 2023? So this is yeah, something where we see in those discussions the enterprise architects very engaged. So then let me conclude. I truly believe that M&A projects require forward-looking enterprise architects in the driver's seat. What do I mean by that? So they need to require a clear integration strategy and establish a joint business capability map as a starting point. So this is where it needs a common understanding. The artifact and the success of an enterprise architect shouldn't be a target architecture. but it's the moderation in the process of that transformation. It's also not a waterfall project, so you can't foresee all the events that are happening. But it continuously like new triggers will evolve where EAs need to react. And I believe one of the biggest values here is that the enterprise architects really provide these options, they sell these options, and they track and the impact on the business outcomes, and yeah, communicate this to all involved stakeholders in such a project. So thank you very much. Happy to answer your questions now.
Fantastic, Christian. So wonderful presentation. Thank you for that. We have about 7 minutes for Q&A. So I want to remind the audience that you can now engage live with Christian and ask questions. I'm gonna be monitoring your questions coming in now. And right off the bat, I'm gonna bring one from Eduardo Rodriguez. Eduardo, great to see you. Eduardo is coming to us from Europe. And he asks, what about project accounting? We're very happy to start projects, but bad at close them down. What are your perspectives on project accounting when it comes to this M&A kind of transition activities?
So you say project accounting, right?
Yeah. And Eduardo, you may want to clarify this a bit further, but I think that he's thinking in the context of what you're saying of M&As, and it's more about projects that start, but projects that don't necessarily finish, and all of a sudden you have M&A activity going on, right? You know, you sell the company, and all of a sudden you're in the mergers and acquisitions, and you started all these things, you know, in the previous company, and now you're merging with someone else. And how do you deal with those complexities during an M&A? You know, when it comes to your enterprise architecture?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect question, and it just emphasizes that like it is really a lot of factors coming together in the way you have your own plan, and one of the customer examples actually goes in that direction. So the ZF example, they had all the projects already running towards the their like own target architecture. So a lot of like introduce an ERP and or stay with that ERP, change it for some business unit. So these things were already in flux, and then you suddenly get like an entity joining which has an own ERP system, own projects running. So I think what really counts is to bring all those together in one view, all the projects. It's a project portfolio that you're looking at, and some were like taken for good reason to run them. And I would always advocate for what's like continuing to evolve our business. It should be kept, and it also relates to one of the points. So having a clear strategy in place on that integration, that's super crucial. And this new entity perhaps has like a new evolved company objectives, and you need to like relate all the projects to those company objectives and say, are they still paying into it? Or I don't know, we wanted to be I don't know, we wanted to get into a new category of business, but that's not important anymore, so you can cut all the projects that were going in that direction. And this is where we see also the conversations with the business stakeholders going in the right direction. So using the business capabilities, mapping it to the company objectives, that then you always have a fan or enthusiast on the other side because you're speaking their language.
Very, very good. Christian, we have lots of questions coming in. I'm going to try to get to them rapid fire in 3 minutes here. So one of them that it's a theme that has emerged has to do about EA professionals and the function itself. How do you, and this comes from Pamela Bishop, and she asks, how do you suggest position EA involvement in the M&A process? and specifically, hold on, Pamela, let me keep an eye on your question because it keeps scrolling on me because it's going fast. Lots of questions coming in, and specifically, as part of the due diligence for companies where enterprise architecture has only recently been established, how do you get EA enterprise architects involved in this process in the best possible way?
Yeah, so there's no way around an IT integration, and I know there are a lot of other parts of a post-merger project, but EA is a crucial part. It's also a crucial part where companies look for synergies in their deals. So in some cases, 50% out of the calculated synergies, so where the finance strategy people say, hey, we want to buy this company because we we can save a lot of money. 50% come from the IT perspective. So I believe there's quite a huge attention on IT from a financial perspective. There's another high attention on IT because you want to make sure that the operations run smoothly. So the people who join in the merger case, you want to make sure that they get productive, that they stay productive in the way they do. So as an enterprise architect, you have all the arguments on your side to come up with a process to say, hey, this is really important as part of the PMI. Otherwise, we lose the good people. We risk that they get unproductive, and take this company that you acquire certainly has a lot of contracts running. So every second that you spend or every day that you spend, there might be a renewing these contracts. So you're like spending money again for the that you don't need anymore because you're having 2 licenses for, I don't know, Oracle that you could merge. So there are a lot of arguments where I would say you can use them when addressing the M&A project teams.
Fantastic. And Christian, one final question to wrap up here, and then I'm going to give the audience a way of getting in touch with all of us to carry on this conversation. But the next question is, you have worked now with a number of M&As, and you have seen enterprise architectures, you have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, people who do it real well, people who are like technically capable but unable to really participate on that M&A function effectively. So give me like one skill that you think that the enterprise architects who are listening to us today, that they should develop to get to that next level as an enterprise architect.
Yeah. One skill that's really that's a tough one. If I need to, I would refer to, I love the book of Gregor Hope. I would call it the elevator skill. It's being able to move from the pure technical conversations straight to the business conversations. So talking in synergies, in like saving money down to what needs to be done with this data center. There are only a very few people who master that, but the enterprise architects that I've seen being very successful, they know how to do that.
That's excellent. So what a great gift, and what thank you so much from Bonn, Germany to the world, sharing your expertise and your knowledge about the subject. Tremendous presentation. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Jose, and good luck with the rest.
Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Christian Richter, Senior Vice President for Customer Success at Lean IX, and we have a whole lot more coming up. But before we get into that, I want to remind you that some of your questions that we could not get to, join us on LinkedIn. The link has been provided to you. You can look up my name, Jose Perez, on LinkedIn, and they will see a posting about the conference. You can ask questions there, and we're going to have some of our speakers come back and answer to as many questions as they are able to in that format as well. Now, we're going to wrap up the session, and we're going to start the new session at the top of the hour. And you do not want to miss our next session on business capabilities as the cornerstone of enterprise architecture. And we have Dr. Arthur Proust, who is the Senior Business Architect and Digital Transformation Leader for Deutsche Bank, who is going to be directly telling us how to do that effectively. Now, as we close this session, there is an opportunity for you to provide feedback on the session, a survey that you can fill out. And if you'd like to do that, please do that and let us know. But we see you back at the top of the hour.